Welcome to my podcast, Why Get Wasted? Innovative Solutions to Climate Change. I'm so excited you found us. In this podcast, I'll be talking with really interesting people who've come up with innovative solutions for tackling climate change. There's so much fear and discouragement now, and I know we can all feel helpless to do anything about what we see and know is happening with our planet. But people are creative and resilient, and they can be really smart, and often in times of crisis, really step up to the plate. So I wanted to draw attention and talk further to some people who've come up with their own way to help all of us fight for our planet. And now a little bit about me. My name is Liz Entin, and I'm the founder of Why Get Wasted. We offer customized plans for businesses and events, both personal and professional, to help them be more climate friendly and sustainable. We've worked with everything from festivals and concerts to fashion shows, and even your kid's birthday party or your own dinner party. While doing this, I've just met some really inspiring people. And now I want to share their stories, the companies they've created, and the solutions they've come up with all of you. We can all work together to fix this. And now I hope you enjoy this episode of Why Get Wasted? Innovative Solutions to Climate Change. Okay, so today I am talking with Laura Dobos from Boxifly.
Hey
Welcome,
everyone.
Laura.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, sure. I'm based in Austin, Texas, and I started Boxifly uh about 3 months back. I can give you the backstory really. I've been working as a product manager and tech consulting majority of my life and was traveling Monday through Thursday every week. So most of my time was spent in hotels and airports and client offices. So, traditionally, like for me, throwing away waste was not at home. And the couple of days I did spend at home each week, I, would just toss things into the recycling. But, once COVID-19 happened and the world changed, that, changed my lifestyle. I was spending more time at home. And I had two kids back to back in 2021 and 2022, really close together. They're Irish twins. And so I was spending even more time at home working remote. And, you know, it was just very difficult to go out and go shopping. So I took advantage of online shopping as we all do, but I mean, with kids, especially in diapers and wipes and everything else that comes along with it. And, people sending us gifts, like the waste was just unbearable. And, we would, take trips to the recycling center constantly, especially for like cardboard and styrofoam between like all the shopping we were doing. And then sometimes I was doing like food delivery just because it was more convenient. It just got to be too much. And I did a program with Northwestern, what was it, 2 years ago, just to like upskill my product management skills. And they encouraged us to think of a problem to solve. And that's kind of where I thought about it like a year and a half ago, and I kind of just sat on it for a bit. And then there came a point last year where I was like, I feel like I need to do something about this. Like I decided maybe I will act on this company. So I applied to a startup accelerator, Antler, and I pitched the idea to them, and I got through the process. But I didn't get in. And you know what? I thought, I'm just gonna build an MVP and kick this off in my neighborhood. So I did that and I got some really good responses. And so I just kind of expanded the service from there. It was, for those of you that don't know, an MVP is a minimum viable product. So it was basically just, I put up a website with a out of the box tool so people could book. And that's basically how it evolved from there. And I started getting feedback from customers and started expanding the pickup item list. But what Boxifly is, our goal is to transform the recycling industry through a more modernized approach to waste management for hard to recycle items. So, single stream recycling, is very convenient, but there is a lot of, complexities involved. And putting everything in one bin, yes, it's convenient, but, it causes contamination and other factors. So, I mean, that is just one of the reasons, but there's a multitude of reasons why the recycling rates are so low. Yeah, and that's kind of how Boxifly came to be. So the way it works is we have a residential side of the business. We have on-demand pickup. So if someone wanted to get rid of their hard to recycle items, they could schedule a pickup and will come within like 8 hours. It's very convenient. And then there's also membership. And then on the commercial side, we do back office hauling for, items that are collected in stockroom. And then we have recycling boxes, which I like to call like a productized service, where it's more front of the office, where companies can encourage customers to come in and drop off their hard to recycle items. So yeah, and the pickup items we have are, a range of plastics, multi-layer plastic, all of the hard plastics, plastic film, and then clothing, textiles, yeah, Christmas, like holiday lights, batteries, electronics, styrofoam. Yeah, feel free to like go to our website and see, but we're at about 15 items right now and looking to expand even further. And we are really a convenient service. We work with local recyclers in the area who accept the items and properly dispose of them and repurpose them into other materials.
Now, is it true that with mainstream recycling, some like plastic recycling is just a facade? Like things are not even recycled. Is that right?
So it depends. So with your local trash company, typically with like single stream, they will typically send the items abroad. And so that's why I've worked with like other local companies who actually do plastic recycling. But yeah, I mean, from what I heard, and I know it's different all over, but at least locally in Austin, we've found out that our trash service actually just sells them all overseas. So yeah, it's
And
very disappointing. Plastic recycling is very complex. I mean, not all plastics are created equal. There's some plastics that are easily recyclable, like PET plastics and HDPE. And then there's other ones that are really difficult, like construction materials and stuff like that. So yeah, there's also been just like innovations lately in the space. There's chemical recycling for plastics where they'll like actually break down the composition of the plastics. So that's been growing lately. I actually just met someone a few weeks back who works at UT, your alma mater, who works in like the lab over there, and they're working on breaking down those hard plastics right now using like fungus and other chemical materials. So yeah, there's some interesting things happening, and the landscape is just like always changing. So, I mean, it's really like something to stay on top of.
is it also true that if, for example, if you have a recycling box just in your building or house, the way most of us do, that are just through the city, those blue recycling, and you
Yeah,
put some of the wrong materials in or don't wash them properly, the whole batch is
exactly.
tossed and not recycled.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where the contamination piece comes in and why it's so important to separate recycling, as difficult and, time consuming as it is. Like, we spend so much time like thinking about products we want to purchase, ordering them. Like, we spend so much time on the front end of the purchase cycle. We don't think about, the second half of it is like how you dispose of it. And, there's really a lack of education in that area, unfortunately. And, a lot of it has to do with how you're raised and just where you're located. I mean, there's some cities who, don't participate in recycling really. And then there's others like New York where, there is a lot more participation. So it really depends, I think, on where you're located. But yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. Like, and I've actually heard of people who go as far as like cutting out like the oil stains in their pizza boxes just to ensure that they are recycled properly. Because, yeah, I mean, if anything gets wet, if you have residue on your plastics, I mean, yeah, they'll just end up going in the trash.
And that's, you just have basically no control over that too. If you live in a place like New York in a big building where most of us live in buildings with
Yeah.
central recycling. I mean, I was doing all that extreme. Obviously, we're good climate, so I'm super aware of that
Yeah.
stuff. And just realize it's useless because I don't think most people in the building do it. It seems like even if everybody except one person would go to that level, it doesn't
Yeah.
count with recycling.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Now, do you think people, well, first of all, I guess I should ask with the current recycling model, do you think it's going to last? I mean, it just seems like it's we use the word greenwashing for,
Yeah.
I don't know if our listeners know that. That means it's usually done with businesses, but you pretend, you take the credit for being green when you're really not. Do you think it's just a feel good, the current, and you referred to it as single stream recycling? That's, you mean by that our current system, right?
Yeah, and I think like it depends. I think the programs are inconsistent depending on the municipality, but I do see a lot of greenwashing, especially with like new and like modern brands who like claim that they're sustainable. Like, for example, there was just like I saw it on Instagram, I don't know, last week. There was like a new coffee bar or something that opened up, and there was like a micro influencer that was promoting it. And they were like, oh, it's a new sustainable business. And everyone in the comments was like asking about it. And I even commented, I was like, well, what makes this sustainable? And they were like, because they use sustainable practices. Like they didn't explain what it was, but I see that as greenwashing because it's like, all right, I'm looking at your pictures and I'm seeing that you use single-use plastic for all your smoothies and you're not using regular coffee mugs, you're using, cups with plastic lids. So to me, that's greenwashing. It's like if you're going to say that you're sustainable, you should have cups that are reusable. You should have silverware that's reusable. And you should also have like, other like bowls and plates that maybe like are edible. I mean, stuff like that. So yeah, if that answer your question correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you answered it. I don't know if there's one correct answer. You
Yeah.
answered it very interestingly and informative. So take an average person with
Mhm.
recycling. What do you think is one of the very specific main mistakes they're making where they could think they're doing it right and they're not? Let's not even go into like New York City buildings where you can't go control your neighbors, but just average family in their home has their own recycling and the blue bins picked up. What's a very typical thing someone's doing wrong?
I think just throwing everything in the blue bin, which is something that even my husband and I did until I started. And that's probably something that I didn't mention too. Like, I haven't traditionally been in the waste management space. So all of my research has been like self-taught. And that's what I realized, even that we were actually doing it incorrectly. So we started separating everything out. But yeah, I would say just throwing everything in the bin. I mean, people even throw batteries and like textiles and other things in the bin that shouldn't be. And, it is different between the municipalities. And I think people really need to look and see what they're supposed to be throwing in. I think Austin does a good job of it. Like they all have a website where you can like type in the item and then they specifically tell you if they accept it or not. And I think people just don't know to do that or take the time to do it. And I mean, even with my business, like, so I don't know if I told you this, but I'm actually in a startup accelerator. I wasn't accepted into Antler, but I'm in the one with the city of Austin right now. It's called the Circular Startup Accelerator. It's like 3 months long, and it's a group.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It's a group of 10 different, sustainability startups in the Austin area. And there's like a pitch at the end and a competition for a small prize. But it's been great because I've met so many different sustainable companies. But it's funny, like they're all focused on sustainability. Like one is building a textile recycling factory, and another one's building like a company where it's almost like an alteration company, but it's more new age where like brands can send people there and to have their stuff altered so it can be repurposed and repaired. But yeah, I mean, so many cool, innovative startups who are in the space, but a lot of them even weren't aware of all the complexities with recycling. So, it's difficult not being in the industry, and even those in the industry aren't aware. So like I actually had to explain to all of them like the limitations of single stream and like, why our business came to be what it is.
Do you
And I
know
know some
the
people who are really oh, sorry, just to add one thing. I know some people who are really into recycling, they'll have like guides up on their wall that like tell them like what goes where. And then, yeah, I mean, ideally, like everything should be separated. Like batteries should have their own bin, electronics, textiles, plastic film. That's the one thing is everyone thinks that plastic film should be going in recycling, but it should actually just go in the trash. It's very difficult to recycle plastic film when it's combined with other recyclables because it gets caught in the machines.
and plastic film, that's like the plastic wrap, like the thinnest.
Baggies. Yeah, anything that sounds like crunchy, like your, vegetable bags or like, the plastic bags around like bread, and so on.
And am I right? Was plastics recycling started by the plastics industry? Do you know about
You
the
know what, that
history of
I'm
that?
not sure of, but I do need to look into that and see.
Yeah, you will be both fascinated and horrified. I haven't delved in yet. I just recently heard on a podcast. That's one of the reasons why it doesn't work so well is people were starting to move away from plastic. So the plastic industry did a whole PR campaign. I
Gotcha.
believe this might have even been in the 90s. I have to delve in too. I think you'd find it fascinating.
Yeah,
And
you know what, one thing I did hear from one of the other startups in the accelerator was that there are companies who produce like plastic bottles just for companies who want to say that they use recycled materials to create their products. Like, so they actually don't use recycled bottles like that people will toss. There's actually, yeah, companies who produce these bottles without the cap just for people to say that they have recycled materials.
oh my God. So wait. So they make bottles and then they sell them to companies. They make bottles that were never used anywhere else.
Yeah.
Companies buy these bottles and their first use, they're made, then sold, and then recycled, having never done anything,
Okay.
just so a company can say we recycled.
Yeah,
That is horrifying.
I know.
So, how do you find out though? I mean, I often will buy recycled plastic products all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way. I mean, I'll have to get more info on where the source came from and send it to you, but I think you just don't know. I mean, you have to trust the brands that you're purchasing from.
Right. And I mean, they're obviously not going to tell you. And even the person you're talking to might have no idea. They might be working at the shop or,
Yeah.
their Instagram PR person, and they're there because they really care about the mission too. I would think, depending on the size of the company, there are probably tons of people there who have no idea and are doing a
Yeah.
job they really care about.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
Wow, that's crazy. And
I
it's
know, thought the same thing.
I this is taking a longer turn. I'm like, I want to ask you like 30 questions about that. Wait, but the companies that produce those bottles, like, how would you even are they the same companies that say make the bottles for Coca-Cola or, and this is a whole other division of them. And they obviously keep it secret. They're not advertising they're doing that.
I'm not sure. It was just a rumor that I am passing along, really.
Okay. I
But I
mean,
will find out more. I do want to know like what the source was. I mean, or maybe we could
yeah.
find it online. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to delve in more. And if you find out a lot, come back on and we'll do an
Yeah,
episode
exactly. We'll
about
do another
that.
session just on that.
Just on that. Oh my God, there's probably, yeah, I mean, there's so much of this you start to hear as you delve in. What would you say maybe is like the biggest misconception that you've come across or unlearned, I guess, as you've been studying this?
I would say that the thing about the plastic bags that they can be recycled in the recycling in the blue bin. That's the biggest one. And that was even the most surprising to me. I mean, and it's crazy to me that, Whole Foods and, HEB, all these big grocery stores, I mean, still have these bags in their stores. I mean, it helps my business, but at the end of the day, I think there has to be some changes in the way we use plastics. I mean, because it's definitely unsustainable. I mean, I read a stat too that we have so much plastic in the world that you could literally wrap the whole globe with like one big plastic bag. That's how much plastic we have. And I think, grocery stores need to encourage more use of like reusable bags um, instead of using these single-use bags. I know there's some innovative companies out there who have bags that actually break down. I forget their names offhand, but yeah, I mean there are, and I saw that there's some companies too that have like the plastic gloves um that are like compostable. So, I mean there are new and innovative products coming out on the market because people are just becoming more aware.
Right. But do a lot of those compostable plastic ones break down just into microplastics, or are they more like the mushroom made ones? Or
I think they use cornstarch because I've looked into getting some of those bags, and at least in the ones I've seen, they use cornstarch. So I'm not sure what the ones that I'm thinking about, I haven't looked at the ingredients, but I'm assuming it's the same. I think it has like a 9 to 12 month shelf life until it breaks down.
now I know that a lot of people like going on a sustainability like life change seems really intimidating. God, even the way I just said it, life change, people think they have to upend their whole way of doing everything. And I think people get really paralyzed by that. So, what
I
is
agree.
one, yeah, what would you say is just like one little easy tip, people that are just starting to learn about this or want to improve? What's an easy thing people can start to do?
I would say just be more mindful of the waste that you're consuming. I mean, there are a couple companies in the space that do what we do. And I would say like check your local market to see. But I mean, if people can get into dividing up their recyclables, I mean, like you're supposed to, and helping and like playing your part to improve the rates is great. I mean, if you don't have a company in the area who offers a service like we do, I mean, maybe make an effort to go to the recycling center if you can build up like a large quantity and if you have the space. Like I would say like it's really not, once you like kind of get into the hang of it, it really isn't that time consuming. I mean, like if people could just dedicate like 10 minutes to it every week, I would say, I mean, that's all you really need. And then, yeah, I mean, trips to the recycling center is a little discouraging, but I mean, that's kind of what's needed, just given the amount of waste we accumulate in the US. And I mean, we are the largest consumers in the world. You can order anything within a matter of seconds and have it delivered within 2 hours. I mean, I think people also need to be mindful of just their habits in general and how much they consume. I mean, do you really need like a new outfit every month? I mean, do you really need like to order food from a company who just uses styrofoam instead of other like healthier alternatives? So I think it's just being mindful of who you order from and just your habits in general.
Yeah. And do you think what I guess ask what kind of responses have you gotten? Do you seem to think people are starting to really get more and more aware of this?
I think so. I mean, most of my customers right now, I mean, we are a newer startup, so I can only speak to like the last couple of months, but I would say most of my clients are people who are aware. And I haven't, I mean, there definitely is an education piece to it. So, um, we are focusing more on B2B. I mean, I do have some B2C customers, but the ones who are B2B are very aware of it. So it does make, selling difficult for the ones that aren't, but it's just something that we're willing to tackle.
And are you only available in Austin? Are you all of Texas? Where
Yeah, so
Austin?
right now it's just Austin, but I mean, my vision is to expand across the US eventually.
Yeah, I hope so. We need this.
Yeah, there are some companies too that do like the take back bags for just textiles, which is pretty cool. And they kind of show on their social medias like kind of how they process and sort everything. So what there are companies like that. There's one called like Trashy, but a lot of people are skeptical about Trashy. I'm not sure because I don't think they show their processing, but there is another one. Um, I'd have to look up the name right now, but I think they are called take back bags. But they actually show their process behind the scenes, which seems like they are, doing the right thing, sorting, processing, and ensuring these items are recycled. I think they're actually on Shark Tank. Um, so yeah, I would recommend using them for textiles. Like if you can't get to a local like Goodwill or something. And then again, like with Goodwill, I know they do sell a lot of our stuff overseas. So it's like you really have to like research the companies and brands that you're using for these items.
And then, so I guess with your recycling, as much as you're okay sharing, what is the behind the scenes? Like, why are you able to, for example, take a plastic or a fabric that mainstream recycling or single stream recycling can't take? What's the difference in what you do?
Yeah, so like with the local trash companies, typically, like I said, they'll sell it overseas, but basically we're kind of like a middleman. So we work with other local recyclers who do actually recycle the items domestically instead of sending them overseas. And that's really the difference. So we accept the items, we sort them in a small warehouse, and we process them. And then they're picked up from a local recycler or we drop them off. It depends on who it is. For example, like textiles, I mean, sometimes it depends on the items we'll donate, but typically, um, I will give them to, there's a local company called Josco who's a textile recycler, and another girl in the startup is building a recycling company as well for textiles. So sometimes I'll give some things to her so she can test out some materials. So yeah, I mean, but those are like the only two people in the area who actually recycle textiles. And they're very hard to find. But yeah, there are a few companies. I mean, batteries, for example, it's easy to find local recyclers, and that's not accepted in single stream. And there's quite a few people in the area who take batteries, as well as electronics. Another thing you can't put into single stream, obviously. So yeah, there's quite a few recyclers in the area. People, just don't have the time to take their items to all these different places. So that's where we come into play. We make it convenient and seamless for consumers to be able to dispose of their items.
And when recycling is sold overseas, what happens to it?
Yeah, I mean, take textiles for example, a lot of it goes to there's certain cities in Africa that will take them and they have like a large dumping ground where so what happens is they'll like take Africa, for example. They'll like bring in all of the recycling into like a market area, and what local merchants do is they'll like go through the items and sort them and pick the ones they want, and then they'll actually sell them in local markets for some time, and then the items that are just sitting for a while, they end up just dumping in like a landfill area, and they end up just sitting there forever.
So they still end up in a landfill, a large portion of them. Oh,
Yeah, pretty
this
much.
is, yeah, we can't keep doing this. We absolutely cannot.
Yeah, I mean, fashion, yeah, it's the industry. I don't know. There's a lot of changes that need to be made in the fashion industry, and I think it's just going to take time. I mean, like, think about it. Do these brands really need to have like different clothing items for fall and spring and summer and spring? I mean, it's just there's so much waste just from the fashion industry itself. It's really sad. I mean, especially with fast fashion. I mean, if and in these dumping grounds in Africa, I mean, most of the items in there are like Shine and Zara and all of those fast fashion brands are just, yeah, a
Yeah,
problem.
I used to work in fashion. Was one of the reasons. It was just, I mean, there were a lot of reasons I ended up leaving, and I still love the art of it. But yeah, I mean, I think fast fashion is one of the worst things. They're just, I mean, there are collector's items and so many pieces that last for so long. I do think we need to do something with a more like long-term model that's also affordable for people, because not everyone can go buy like a vintage like Poochie dress for like $2,000. That's, I mean,
Exactly.
most of us cannot go do that. And if you can, usually you can buy that like as a one special piece, not your whole
Right.
wardrobe. So yeah, that's one of the
Yeah.
industries that needs a lot of restructuring, because I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't buy some fast fashion, because
I know.
you can't have a whole wardrobe without at least, I mean, you can't buy expensive stuff. And also, I would say from working in fashion, a lot of the expensive stuff uses very unsustainable practices
Right.
too.
Like a lot of polyester and yeah, I mean, they use these cheap fabrics, especially in fast fashion, and that's why a lot of these pieces end up just breaking down after like the first time that they're washed because they're just so cheaply made, and that's why people toss them out because they don't look as great as they did when they first put them on in the
Oh,
store. So, and that's part of the problem too, is like all of these cheap materials, like, there are brands who are using more cottons and linens, but yeah, they're very expensive and not everyone can afford to shop like that. So, fast fashion for them is the answer.
right. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this, some needs to be on like us average consumers, and a big portion needs to be on the corporations. Like, yeah, we need so much restructuring and better recycling, like what you're doing, and
Yeah.
ending the concept of single use. Like, I don't think fashion should be single use. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in Austin, there are incentives for companies to do away with single use, especially like restaurants. They have a program where, like, if you use, regular plates and cups that aren't single use, they'll get like a rebate at the end of the year or something. But it would be nice if more cities had programs like that in place. And I mean, not every restaurant and cafe takes advantage of those things. I mean, it is cheaper for them to use plastics at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
definitely going to take time or legislation for things to change.
Probably a bit of all of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah. Well, thank you. This has all been so interesting.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say that you haven't yet, or anything you'd like me to ask you that I haven't?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything, but we should definitely chat more because I mean, we're newer startup and we'll definitely evolve. And I mean, as things change in the market and stuff, I mean, I'll probably have new exciting things to share with you. So
Oh my God, please let me know when you do, because
Yeah.
I feel like this is stuff we're all kind of learning as we go along. I feel like every conversation I have with someone, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
So it's constantly, our knowledge and research is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So yeah. And also, if you expand beyond Austin, please just let me know and
Oh
I could do
yeah.
little updates so other people can come on and join.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so where can everyone follow you, find you, stay updated? If you are in Austin, start working with you.
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is Laura Dobos, for my public Instagram. And then the business is under Boxifly Recycling. So yeah, feel free to follow and support our journey. We're really just getting started to, make a huge impact. So we'll have more business customers as the months progress. And yeah, we'll be doing some more bigger and better things.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Why Get Wasted? Innovative Solutions to Climate Change. There are so many interesting people doing such great things in the climate space, and I'm really excited to bring them to you. They've inspired me so much, and I hope they inspire you too. So please come visit me and learn more at whygetwasted.com.